Good evening, students. Welcome to our today's session for elective paper at final level. This is for your paper 6C Global Financial Reporting Standards. Students, welcome for this session, and I hope you'll be taking maximum benefit of this session. We are not going to keep this session too long, as if in case you have any queries, we'll resolve that. So please be free for asking any of the queries. For any technical query which is related to case studies, you can also mail me. However, let's first start the session and see in case you have any query, we can answer that. Okay. So first of all, let's understand the nature of this paper. The paper is elective paper, paper 6E in your final existing course, which is a bucket of elective paper, paper 6. One of the elective paper is your global financial reporting standards. The paper is of 4 hours. The paper pattern is, this is an open book. Elective papers are an open book examination, and the questions are of 5 case studies of 25 marks each. Each case study, there will be 5 case studies in the question paper, and out of 5 case studies you have to do any 4 case studies of your choice. You'll be given 4 hours to complete this question paper. The book which you, whatever book you feel you have studied and you want to refer in your examination, you can carry with yourself. Okay, so the question paper, and what will be the manner of testing? Every case study will have MCQs also and descriptive also. For those who are going to appear for the first time for this paper, this information will be more useful. The question paper, every case study is carrying MCQs also and descriptive also. So your ratio is 40 to 60. 40% is your MCQs and 60% is your descriptive questions or subjective questions. So if each case study is of 25 marks, it means 40% of 25 marks is equal to 10 marks. So you'll be having MCQs of 10 marks in total, and similarly you'll be having 15 marks subjective questions for your this paper in every case study. So out of MCQs, 10 marks MCQs, you'll be having 5 MCQs of 2 marks each, and for every MCQ you are not supposed to give any reasoning. You have to mark your answer for MCQs in your OMR sheet, which will be provided to you during your in your examination hall. You have to mark the correct answer as through black pencil. Okay. However, because this is a specialization paper, this is an elective paper, the questions will be involving questions which will be tested in your examination will comprise of computation, application, analysis, evaluation, and synthesis. So don't expect that direct question will be direct theoretical questions will be asked from your study material. So it will be basically the questions which will require application of the provisions of IFRS. One more thing, the syllabus of this paper is completely IFRS. Your core paper financial reporting, the syllabus is Ind AS. However, for this elective paper, your syllabus is IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. So more or less Ind AS and IFRS are same, but there are certain carve-outs. So while taking up this question paper, while taking the examination for this particular paper, you have to keep that in mind that the paper is not Ind AS. The paper is, the syllabus is IFRS. So your all answers should have reference of IFRS only. Okay. However, just to maintain harmony and to avoid any confusion between those who are appearing for both the groups or those who are already studying your paper, core paper 1 in days, we have tried to minimize the differences by keeping only those standards which are relevant in your core paper financial reporting, those only standards vis-a-vis your Ind AS. It means if you are having there Ind AS 1, then IAS 1 here. So same standards, equivalent standards as per Ind AS, that is forming part of your syllabus. Others have been removed or have been excluded through study guidelines. So whatever standards which you have taught, which you have studied in your Ind AS paper, in your final paper 1 financial reporting, IFRS equivalent to those Ind AS are applicable for this particular paper, global financial reporting standards. So Similarly, any exemption or any exclusion which has been given in your financial reporting paper through study guidelines, same exclusion will work here also for your this paper, Global Financial Reporting Standards. One more thing is amendments. Amendments applicable till notified by Ind AS. Sorry, or should I say any amendment which has been notified by MCA in Ind AS, till that amendment only have been applicable for this IFRS. IFRS amendments are in advance. After when once the amendment comes in IFRS, those are picked and discussed by the Indian government, and later on they are notified. So definitely in amendments in IFRS are in advance, and after a year or some period, those amendments are carried in your Ind AS. So now to maintain parity between this paper and your elective, maintain parity between your core paper and your elective paper, any amendments which are relevant for your Ind AS, till that on those amendments till that only is applicable for your this elective paper. So it means any amendments which are there in IFRS but that has not been notified in Ind AS, that won't be applicable for your this elective paper IFRS GFRS. Okay. Okay, now how to improve marks in the examination. When you start writing the answers, first choose the case study which you know the best. See, students, you'll be getting 15 minutes reading time. Definitely, if this question paper runs into number of pages, say 30 plus pages, so it won't be difficult. It will be difficult for you to study all those 30 pages in 15 minutes. But you have to give a glance. So because this is an open book examination, so don't rely completely on the study material or any book, reference book which you are carrying with yourself in your examination. You must be well acquainted with the study material or any reference books which you are carrying with you, so that it avoids or it saves time when you want to refer anything from the book. What happens that though you are having 4 hours, this is an open book examination, but if you're not well versed with your material, then you will be spending a big amount of time in searching from the material, and that is not advisable because your this question paper is case study based. So you should be aware of where what is given, what provision, which standard is given in what page or where it is given, so that you can immediately open that particular page and refer to that particular provision to apply in your answers. However, if you feel that you'll just start there only searching, then definitely you'll be losing marks because you won't be able to complete your full answer, all the 4 case studies. Sorry, not 5 case studies, all the 4 case studies. So be aware of this, that you have to be well versed with the reference material which you are carrying with yourself in the examination. Okay, carrying with you in the examination. So in those 15 minutes which will be given for reading the question paper, try to have a glance of all the case studies and try to understand which case study is testing on what all those standards are there for which they are testing the questions. So that will help you in understanding which standards you have prepared and or in which standards you are more confident. You'll be able to pick the case studies based on that glance. Reading of case study, if when first you choose those 4 case studies which you have to answer in your examination, after that you can start reading case one by one each case study and answer that. For even so one is that you have to be that you know the best. When you start writing the answers, first choose the case study which you know the best, and where there is a confusion, there may be certain case studies where you feel you are more confident with MCQs but you're not sure about the answers in the descriptive part. Similarly, there may be certain questions where certain case studies where you are more confident about the descriptive case studies but you are not confident more about you're not much confident about MCQs. In such a scenario, it is advised that if you are very sure about your descriptive question, then choose that particular case study because it is carrying 15 marks. But if you are not sure about the descriptive question, then give the weightage to your MCQs where you are more sure or confident. The reason behind is that in a particular question where you are confused with the small one adjustment or 2 adjustments, you have MCQ, you have options in the MCQs. Through that you can understand, okay, this may be the possible answer, or this sometimes if suppose for example you are having 5 adjustments to do, But when you're doing all the 5 adjustments, none of the options given in your that particular MCQ comes arrive or is not given in any of the options. In such a situation, you mean that it is sure that all 5 adjustments will not be required to be added or to less. Some may have to be ignored, some may have to be uh, done otherwise. Instead of doing addition, it has to be subtracted. So you can have that clue from the options which is given in the MCQ. So in case you're not confident about your MCQ also, you're not confident about your descriptive also, then choose the MCQs where you get an help in the form of option. So wherever you get help through in the form of options, it is always advisable to choose the MCQ. But you have to be confident also, because options given in your elective papers, they are more or less similar in nature, very closely related options have been given, so you have to be careful with that also. Okay, attempt all the questions of a particular case study at one place. You should not answer different questions of a case study at different place. What does this mean? This means, suppose, because you will be having only 4 case studies to answer out of 5, so every case study of 25 marks will be divided into some subparts. Definitely for MCQs, you will be given separate OMR sheets. You have to mark your answers there. But for descriptive question also, it is not that you will be having one question of 15 marks. It will be, you'll be having 2 or 3 questions in a case, the descriptive questions in a particular case study, which will be carrying, say, about 5 marks each, or 6, 7, 3, whatever the combination is there. But you will be having definitely more than one question. In that case, your answer should be properly numbered, and all the subparts of that particular case study should be answered at one place. It should not be that case study 1 is having 3 descriptive questions, and you are answering one descriptive question at one place, and then after that you started another case study, then you came back to first case study. Don't do that. In case if you feel that you are not sure about any part of the descriptive particular case study, then you leave sufficient page for that, and then move ahead, so that if you want to come back, you can answer at that particular, in that particular sequence only, or at one place only. Okay, you'll be given 4 hours for this particular question, so question paper. So be sure that this 4 hours is well utilized in proper handwriting. Your handwriting should be legible. You also need to maintain your speed while writing the answer. Though this question paper is of 4 hours, but this is an open book examination. So the biggest mistake which students tend to do is that they spend more time in referring the reference material rather than in answering. So though it is an open book examination, be ready with come well prepared, so that you use minimum of the reference material and you answer based on your practice, understanding and preparation. Okay, state the assumptions, because it is an elective paper. So what happens that it is possible that there are more than one solution for each question. So in case you are using any one answer only, you are giving only one answer, so please mention the assumption which you are taking, and on the basis of which you are answering that particular part of the case study. Your assumption will help the examiner understanding that, okay, there were 2 ways and you have taken this logical assumption. If he finds that that logical assumption is correct, definitely you'll be scoring marks. Okay, answer the questions with due emphasis on the provisions of IFRS. Now, because again this paper is of 4 hours, so you have to be sure that you are not straightforward coming to the conclusion. You even in your core paper also you have to mention the provision, but provision mentioning will be less. But here, because for same number of questions, because your time allocation will be more, so you'll be expected to write more. So provisions of the standards you have to mention. For sure you have to mention the provisions of standard, then you have to connect it with the scenario, and then you have to come at the conclusion along with your substantiation, your reasoning. Next is, you all must be aware that okay, this I already told you that you will be getting 15 minutes extra reading time. So use that 15 minutes judicially, and you won't be able to go through each and every word in your question paper. So just have a glance, and based on that glance only, you have to decide which case studies you have to attempt first. Okay. But one manner of saving time is, it is advised that instead of start reading the case study, when you decide that you have to, when you are starting with your answer, when you are provided with the answer sheet, instead of start reading the case study, start reading, first read the requirement part of the case study. It means the question part. In MCQs, whatever questions are, those 5 MCQs which are given, first read those MCQs and also the descriptive question, then come back to the scenario. What will happen, that somewhere in the mind, back of the mind, you will be aware that this question has been asked. So when you are reading the case study, you'll be able to connect with the requirement which is there in the MCQ or descriptive, and you'll be able to mark that, okay, this particular scenario or sub scenario is related to this MCQ, or this is related to this particular descriptive question. So this will save time. Otherwise, what will happen? First, you will read the case study, then you'll read the MCQ part and descriptive. Now you'll again read the case study to find where the scenario is given. To save that, if you go through the requirement part of the MCQ or descriptive question and then go through the case study, you'll be able to connect it. You'll be able to mark it. Okay, this particular case study is case scenario of this case study starts from here and ends here, and this is related to this particular MCQ or this particular descriptive question. So there won't be much repetition of reading, and that will save your time, and you'll be able to answer, or you will be able to devote more time for your answer. After once you decide with the case study that these are the 4 case studies which you are going to answer in your examination, allocate time for every case study. Since it is very standard that every case study will be having 5 MCQs and every case study will be having 15 marks descriptive question. So allocate your time in such a manner that you are left with 10 to 15 minutes reading revision time at the end. In fact, since it is a 4 hours examination, you can have more time for revision. You can spend leave 15 to 20 minutes or 25 minutes for your revision. In such a situation, what will happen, you'll be more sure about what have you given, especially when you have marked that in your OMR sheet about those answers of MCQs. You can recheck that, because even a small mistake in marking may lose 2 marks for you, na? Where you will be losing 2 marks. So just to avoid that scenario, revision is important. You can spare some time for revision also. When you are answering descriptive question, be careful. When you are answering descriptive question, be careful that your answer should be in commensuration with the marks allocated to that particular question. Okay. Unnecessary writing lengthy answers which is not relevant will not fetch you marks. You have to be precise to the point, but yes, you have to mention the provisions of the standard also. Okay. Try to adhere to the estimated time kept for each question. This will help you in your time limit. It will help you in keeping your cool state of mind, and it will also not hamper the time allocated to another question. So if you will be cool, you'll be maintaining a constant speed with while answering the questions or all the descriptive parts, you'll be able to complete the question paper within time, and also all other questions will be answered in a standard manner. It will not be that the first answer is big of 2 to 3 pages and the second answer you don't have much time, so you are cutting it short to only half page. So that, to avoid that situation, keep adhere to the time which you have allocated for each every question or marks, and you are maintaining the speed throughout your examination. Okay, I have one query. Let me just see that. Vinay, ma'am, like case study 4 of December 21. If there is no correct option in MCQ, then what needs to be done? As while practicing that 3 MCQ took more time, and when I checked answer, it was mentioned no correct option is there. How to tackle this? See, student, in case there you when there is some mistake or some issue in your question paper, because of which there is no correct option, or whatever the options which are given in the question paper, they are not matching with your answer, you can simply leave that MCQ. If there is actually a mistake in the question paper, that will be taken care by the examination department. They will definitely take care of that. They'll give due marks to you for their mistake. So don't worry for that. In case any there you find that this the whatever the options are given that is not correct, you can leave that MCQ. Okay. and that will be taken care of. For sure, that will be taken care of. Sometimes it also happens that there are more than one options correct. In that situation, also you must know how to deal it. In that case, if there is more than one option, you can mention any of the option in your OMR sheet. If so, for example, answer A is option A is also correct and option B is also correct, so instead of marking both the options, you just mark option A. That will be considered for your evaluation. Okay. Later on, after the examination gets over, you can also give a feedback to the examination department. They come out with a helpline or the Google form na, where you have to mention the question number, page number, and what is the anomaly in the question paper, that you can bring to the notice of the examination department. They will definitely take care of that. Okay, if that anomaly is valid, that they will be taking care of. Okay, one more query is there. Again, Vinay is asking, ma'am, if we take new assumption, if that is not in suggested answer, then will we get marks? Yes. If your assumption is valid, you'll be getting marks for that. Your assumption should be valid. Irrational assumption out of nowhere, something which is not matching with the provision, if you use that assumption and you answer on that basis, then it will not be considered. However, if you take valid assumption and you mention that assumption in your answer sheet, it will be taken care of. You can also give in the feedback while filling the Google form that this was the anomaly or this particular question may carry two possible alternate solutions. You can give that feedback also, and that will be taken care by the examination department. Okay. Okay. Fine. Let's move on to our PPT. Thorough and in-depth preparation of entire syllabus. See, again, I am telling you, though this is an open book examination, you are having 4 hours to complete this question paper. You'll be allowed to carry the reference material along with you, but don't rely completely on the material reference at the time of examination. Come in your examination hall well prepared. Be thorough with the reference material. Come prepared, like you go for your core papers where this is no, where there are closed book examination. You are not supposed to bring any material. You come with your preparation. Similarly, for this paper also, come with 100% preparation. Don't rely on a material. In case you get stuck up somewhere, then use try to refer the material. Otherwise, don't use it as a privilege. Use it as a need based. Okay, so if it is a need based, it means that only when it is very required, then only you'll be referring. And reference, you don't even realize that how much time it consumes. It may consume much time what you were expecting or what you were thinking, and it may also not help you much, because during examination, if you go through a content for the first time, you won't be able to appreciate it. You won't be able to apply that exactly what the manner in which it should be applied. So you should come in your examination well prepared. And always it is recommended by, or it is advised by Board of Studies or by institute, that never ever go for any selective study. Especially for this paper, what happens, one IFRS is interconnected with to another IFRS. So in case you leave one particular standard and you only prepare out of 10 standard, you are preparing only 5 standard or 6 standard, and you are leaving 4 standards, so your confidence level will not be 100%. And what may happen, that because it is an elective paper, it is a specialized paper, it may ask question which may involve provisions of more than one standard. It may application of more than one standard is required for answering that particular question. So if you are well or prepared thorough with one particular standard but not with another standard, then also you won't be able to answer it correctly, or you may spend more time doing that. So always go for 100% prepared thorough study of the standard study material, and don't go for any selective study. Okay. Written practice of both. I for this core paper also I suggested, and even for this paper I will suggest, because if you have gone thorough practice for, you are going for both groups and you have taken GFRS, then your core paper study will help you a lot. And written practice of both numerical and theoretical questions is an utmost requirement, and is a big suggestion which is given by us, that please don't go for an oral practice of questions. Even for your somewhere which you say even for your theoretical questions also. What students tend to do is that for numerical questions they go for written practice, but for theoretical questions they simply read the question, they think in their mind what should be the answer, they just match with the solution which is given in the study material. Okay, this answer, whatever I thought, this is given here, so I am correct, I know the answer or I know the logic, and they move to the next question. But what happens is that when you think in your mind, you only think about the conclusion. You don't put it in pen. You don't put it in your paper, on your paper, that exactly how you're going to present it, how you are going to build up your answer. So what happens when you come to the examination, you know the answer, but you are not able to write on the basis of in commensuration to the marks allocated to the that particular question. So for example, a question requires at least 5 points to be explained, and then to connect it, you'll be able to explain only 2 points. You know the conclusion. Your conclusion may be correct, but in that situation, it is not that you are covering all the points. So you'll be losing marks. Okay. Okay. Again, when you are asking, sorry, when is asking one question, let me see that. Ma'am, if market rate is given in case of financial instrument, particularly financial assets, such market rate is not equal to given contractual rate on financial assets. In that case, answer was that it will be measured at cost. It was mentioned by BOS faculty in this query that transaction price is generally fair value. The assumption in above case correct. See, student, what happened is that generally transaction price is always at fair value. It will not be in fair value when you are something is mentioned in the question paper or in that particular question. If nothing is mentioned in the question paper, it means your transaction price is your fair value. However, sometimes it happens along with transaction price, you have some transaction cost also. For because of that, your market rate, even though it is given, you will be having a different effective interest rate of interest. Okay, your EIR will be different, and you have to take that EIR for your calculation. However, if nothing is mentioned, then transaction price is always considered as at market value or at market rate or market value, or it is a fair value. Okay. So the whatever BOS faculty has guided, that is correct. Okay, written practice of each question by hand without referring to the solution to first in the first go will develop analytical skill and proper understanding of the concept. See, student, what happened when you write answer, you are writing it in detail. You are not writing only the conclusion because you know that how you have to write it. This will, and without referring to the answer, what happens that you put your thoughts onto the paper, and when your thoughts does not match with the solution which is given in the study material, you tend to think what is the reason. You cannot simply say okay, the answer which is given in the material is wrong, or you won't even accept it right straightforward that whatever you have answered is wrong. You'll think over it, you'll think what went wrong, where went wrong, whether it was in the material or whether it was in your thought process, what mistake, what understanding lacuna is there. So that will help you in analyzing the scenario, analyzing the situation. So that analytical skill will be developed. You won't even realize that it is developing, but it will develop. So writing of answer is this also. This will help you directly and indirectly in many ways. Writing will help you in speed management, your maintaining speed, your increasing of speed, your time management, your hand and mind coordination. Your writing will also improve because everything you are putting practicing in writing na. So with that same good handwriting, you'll be able to maintain the speed also. So in many manners, in many ways, it is going to help you. So it is always advised by us that please go for written practice of questions. Either it is theoretical question, go for written practice. Okay. Keywords in your theoretical answers are very important. By saying keywords, we mean that whatever terminology which has been used or glossary which is used in your standards, that somewhere should be reflected in your answer. Not word to word matching of the provisions is recommended or advised, but definitely certain keywords should be forming part of your solution, which is matching with the standard. For example, like just now you have asked for the question transaction cost, amortized cost, your fair value through profit and loss, fair value through OCI, certain words which should match in, which should come in your, appear in your answer also, which will show your understanding and your knowledge. Okay, alertness while computation. In practical question, lots of computations are required. Students apply correctly. So what happens? See, because this is a practical paper, though now it is more on evaluation and synthesis, this paper is of specialization, high difficulty level is expected for this particular question paper. So it is not that only numerical questions will be tested. It will be definitely many questions which will require your analysis, evaluation, and then your conclusion, or how to you'll be going to advise or consult, or whatever you are going to advise or recommend, that is forming part of your solution. This is one of the manner of testing. So it is, your Indias is not only for your numerical calculations, it is how you are presenting in the financial statement, how you are coming to a particular conclusion, and what was the basis on which you have come to that particular conclusion. So theoretical questions, but coming to conclusion means it needs many reasons for arriving at a particular conclusion. So for that conclusion, one of the reason may be some computation also, and where it is a numerical question, everything is computational. So you have to take care of computation part, that any loophole also, should I say, any mismatch in what was given in the question paper and the figure which when you are copying in your answer sheet, or at the time of calculation, instead of addition you had did subtraction, that will tend to lose marks, no? So be careful about computation part. You should not do any jumbling of the question, of the figures while copy. You should not commit any errors of copying wrong digits from the question paper, or from one page to the next answer, next page of your answer sheet. You have to be very careful while doing your computation part. Okay. At exam center you won't be getting anything from institute, what only answer sheet and the question paper. It may happen that you get that what should I, discounting factor wala table you may get, but nothing else. Everything you have to carry if you feel that is required for you to refer in your examination. Even the bare text, institute is not going to provide you. You have to carry with yourself. If you feel that you need bare text, carry that with you. It is, there's no restriction that you have to carry only one book. You can carry 5 books, you can carry 6 books, whatever you feel you'll be able to manage in that given space. You'll be having one bench, one chair, na? You'll be having one bench and one table to sit in that particular limited space. Whatever you can carry with you, you can take in your examination for this particular paper. You have to be reasonable, and definitely, since I told you earlier also that whatever reference material you are carrying with you yourself with you in your examination, be well versed with that. So if you are well versed with 5 material and you want to carry all those, it's your choice. Okay. Alertness while computation, this I have already covered. Now preparation of working notes. Working notes are very important and they form part of your solution, and they carry marks also. So it is very necessary that whatever computations you are arriving at, the final figure, how you have arrived at that particular figure, you should give it in the form of your working note. Working note doesn't mean only showing figures plus minus this. You have to write the statement also, so that examiner understands, okay, you took this figure from this particular, this is this the statement, this particular statement carries this figure. They should not be in a position to find what this figure belongs to. That statement should also be given. Therefore working note is very important. Okay. And since it carries marks, so not giving your working notes may help you, may lead to loss of vital marks. Okay. Definitely it is not possible that you give each and every working note or even a small working note, but since working notes carry marks, so whenever you feel that a particular amount which you have calculated has been arrived after 3 or 4 adjustments or after certain adjustments. So definitely it means that it should appear in your answer sheet as a working note. Okay. So after that, students, I have mentioned certain amendments, but you have to see amendments. I have already discussed this in the core paper also, since I told at the beginning of the session that whatever amendments which have taken place in Ind AS, similar amendments will be applicable for your IFRS also, because those amendments were taken place much before when it was carried in Ind AS. It was taken place much earlier in your IFRS, but we made it applicable only when it was made in Ind AS, when it was notified for Ind AS. So if any amendment which has been notified in Ind AS and is applicable for that particular examination, then correspondingly the same amendment will be applicable for IFRS also. Okay. If you want, I can again explain those amendments. Otherwise, I have already explained the amendments in your BOS for your success for financial reporting paper. So if you feel that those amendments, because amendments are same, only reference of instead of Ind AS, reference of IAS or IFRS is given. Okay, so I'll do one thing, since we have time. So I'll do one thing, I'll just brush up with the amendments, but not in much detail. Wherever you feel that yes, you require more detailed explanation for that, you can let me know. Okay. So recently there amendment, earlier your study material is your October 2021 edition. After that, Ministry of Corporate Affairs have come out with the amendments twice. One in the year 2022 and one another in the year 2023. So amendment in 2023 is in your IAS 1, IAS 8, IAS 12, IFRS 1 and IFRS 1. There are only major 4 amendments. Okay. So just a minute. Huh? Okay. For IAS 1, the major amendment was that earlier it was mentioned significant accounting policies and disclosures of those significant accounting policies. Now, instead of the word significant, amendment has come which has replaced the word significant to material accounting policies. So now we will be mentioning everywhere material accounting policies. Definitely it is more or less same thing, but material is more apt and more broad concept, and because all your financial statement carries material disclosures, so material accounting policies need to be disclosed. Okay. Accounting policies, whatever the basis for which you are choosing any accounting policy, the judgment for which based on which you have chosen any particular accounting policy, that also you have to disclose. In IAS 8, IAS 8 is accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and errors. So earlier what changes in accounting estimate, that was given as definition. Now they have replaced it with the definition of accounting estimates. So accounting estimates are monetary amounts in financial statements that are subject to measurement uncertainty. So this definition was not a definition for accounting estimate was not given earlier. So now this definition has been included, and the definition for change in accounting estimate, that has been removed. Vinay, I asked you to mail. I was just waiting for your mail also. Okay, let me see if possible. I'll do that. Okay. So accounting estimates are monetary amounts in financial statements that are subject to measurement uncertainty. As per the amendment, the company develops an accounting estimate to achieve the objectives set out by the accounting policy. Developing accounting estimates involves use of judgments or assumptions. So whatever estimate judgments or assumptions you have taken to arrive at particular accounting estimate, that also needs to be disclosed. Okay. Examples of certain change in accounting estimates were mentioned earlier also in the standard, but they have now been modified and improvised, and has been connected with the actual terminology or language which was used in that particular standard. So these 4 examples are a loss allowance for expected credit losses, net realizable value on item of an inventory, the fair value of an asset or liability under IFRS 13, depreciation expense for an item of property, plant and equipment. Applying depreciation expense means a change in depreciation expense or in change the method of calculation of depreciation will form part of the change in accounting estimate. Okay, a provision for warranty obligation as per IAS 37. Okay, whatever measurement techniques you use for valuation, which includes estimation techniques and valuation techniques, that is required to be disclosed. Okay, now for IAS 12, as per the amendment, paragraph 15 and 34 have been modified by adding an exception to the recognition of deferred tax liability or deferred tax assets. See, what happened is that, and as an exception to the recognition of deferred tax liability or deferred tax asset on taxable temporary difference or deductible temporary difference, respectively, arising on account of initial recognition of an asset or liability in a transaction which at the time of transaction does not give rise to equal taxable and deductible temporary difference. When it is given equal taxable and deductible temporary difference, in suppose in case of lease, in case of lease, whenever you calculate the lease liability and you pass an entry ROU asset DR debit to lease liability. In such a situation, your amount is same. It is not giving rise to it is giving rise to equal taxable and temporary difference. So this situation does not require any recognition of deferred tax asset. However, where there is difference, where the amount which you are debiting and when you are the amount which you are not which you are crediting is not similar. For example, you have a ROU asset, DR, to lease liability, and with lease liability you have certain decommissioning provisions also, which is forming part of a RU asset as per your terms of the lease, as per your agreement of the lease. Some asset you have taken on lease, but when you are completing or at the time of expiring or maturing of that agreement, you have to bring that asset back to the stage one, the or day one. So that requires your decommissioning liability provision for your decommissioning liability also. So in that case, your asset is not matching with your liability. So in that case also, your there, because this figure will be, this figure is discounted value. You have to unbundle this. So definitely there is no match with this. So in that case, what will happen that even there is a mismatch, but initial transaction ke samay you are not supposed to recognize any deferred tax asset or deferred tax liability on it. Okay. IFRS 1. Now, in IAS 12, we give the exemption that even if there is no there is no, the transaction at the time of initial transaction, it is not giving rise to equal taxable and deductible temporary difference. Still, if a user or if the adopter or if the entity, if an entity is using is using IFRS for the first time, is applying IFRS for the first time in the financial statements, then even if it is not giving rise to equal taxable difference, still we have to compute deferred tax asset and liability on it, and we have to matlab recognize deferred tax on it. Okay. So these were the amendments which took place in the year 2023, March 2023. Earlier, because your material is October 2021, and after that there are two amendments by the MCAs, one in 2022 and another in 2023. So whatever came in 2023, we discussed that, and now we are coming to amendments which took place in your MCA, the amendment which took place or which is notified by the MCA in Ind AS in 2022, corresponding to that amendment in IAS is relevant for you. So one amendment was IAS 16. In IAS 16, property, plant and equipment, this is very important because there is a carve out. In Ind AS, the amendment which has been notified is different with what is given in your IAS 16. IAS 16 says that when we are testing the asset, so any item manufactured or produced during the testing period of an asset, when we are selling that net proceeds from the sale of that particular item which is produced or manufactured during testing time is to be charged to P&L. This who says this? This is said by IFRS, or this is said by IAS 16. However, Ind AS says that you have to deduct it from the cost of the asset. So here there is a deviation from what is given in the IFRS. So that resulted into carve out in Ind AS. For IFRS purpose, you have to understand that any net proceeds from the sale of goods produced during manufacture or produced or manufactured during testing of the asset will be charged to profit and loss, not deducted from the cost of asset. Okay. IAS 37 provisions. In IAS 37, what happens? There was, you have to determine onerous contract. Cost of onerous contract is required for creating a provision. But for cost, what type of cost should be considered for computation of onerous contract, for computation of provision, that was not explained very clearly. It was simply mentioned that unavoidable cost should be considered for computation of this onerous contracts. Now, for unavoidable cost, earlier what entity used to do, some used to use only directly attributable expenditures, a cost, and some used to include incremental cost also. Now, as per the amendment in IFRS, you have to use both incremental cost also and directly attributable cost also. Any incremental cost which is you on the asset which is used to which was used for that particular contract, that particular incremental cost will also forming part of that unavoidable cost of the onerous contract. Okay, will be considered for making the provision. In IFRS 3 business combination, conceptual framework was revised by IFRS Foundation also. So when conceptual framework was revised, what happened? That in that conceptual framework, the definition of asset and liability was given, which you have to apply at the time of acquisition of business entity was applying at the time of business acquisition. And when they were applying that particular concept, they were recognizing certain liabilities at the time of acquisition of asset. Later on, when they were applying, subsequently when they were applying other standard or IFRS 3 or IAS 37, that is provisions, they found that this is not in compliance with that particular standard. So what they used to do, initially they used to recognize, and then in day 2 they used to de-recognize it. And because of that de-recognition, if there is a change in the value, that was charged or recognized in profit and loss. This was unnecessary overburdening of the your profit and loss. So to avoid that, amendment has been notified in IFRS 3 that such is to be separately recognized. Such liability is to be separately recognized, not recognized at the time of acquisition. Okay. Okay, this was an amendment in IFRS 1 which says that what happens, a cumulative translation difference. If an holding company is adopting your IFRS for the first time, so they were given an option to recognize cumulative translation difference as deemed as zero, and later on it was built up. However, if subsidiary entity, its subsidiary holding company, subsidiary company later on adopts first time adoption of IFRS in their separate financial statements, then they were allowed to take the balance which was appearing in the consolidated balance sheet rather than assuming it as zero. So this option was given through an amendment in IFRS 1. Okay. Here, some problem is there. I'm not having any query more. Okay, Vinay, one query I got. Vinay, if ROU asset is having more value on commencement date due to lease rental payments at beginning of the year, in that case, deferred tax to be recognized or not? See, if there is a mismatch, then you won't be required. At initial date, you won't be required. That is the exemption which has been given in IAS 12. Okay, so even if there is the situation is not giving rise to equal deductible or taxable temporary difference, still you won't be allowed to recognize deferred. You won't, yeah, you are given an exception not to recognize deferred tax asset or liability. Okay. So students, any other query if you have, please let me know. I'm not taking up any particular case study, because definitely a case study requires well hand reading, and otherwise you won't be able to appreciate that, and that will definitely take a long time. So it's already 5:20, so I'm not continuing with any case study. You please go with the case study digest which is uploaded on the website, and it carries 45 case studies, and all are good and different case studies and will help you for your examination preparation. Okay. Okay students, then thank you. All the best for your examination, and study well. Do 100% study, definitely will be able to score good marks. All the best. Thank you.